Thank you for joining me. My name is Yvonne Gaybauer with my Crafting Therapy Room, and I'll be taking you through how I created the cover of my art journal that I created with one of those magazine pullouts. So what I did was I grabbed my Lindy's Stamp Gang October Color Challenge set, and you can just see all the yummy colors. Trying to decide which ones I wanted to use, so I grabbed my color wheel and I used when you take your color wheel and put it to any 5 colors that are in a row like I did there, those are analogous. And so what I did was I picked 3 of those 5 colors, which was your red, violet, and blue. And I just sprayed the front of the page, not worrying about the colors blending together or anything like that. The purple and the red colors are starbursts, so they've got a bit of a shimmer to them. The Caribbean blue color is a flat Fabio, so not a lot to that. Grab the stencil, as you can see, and all I wanted was the words live, laugh, and love. Now trying to decide where I want to position them on the page, I took my white charcoal pencil and used that to try to line up where the laugh was going to be, and then centered the other 2 from there. So there you can see I've got the love on there. Scrape off the extra. What am I using here? I am using a product called, what is it called? Wood, no, it's for covering nail holes when you do drywall. The name escapes me totally right now. How sad is that? Wood, whatever it's called. You know what I mean. So anyways, that's what I'm using to stencil here. This is what I use at the cabin quite often. Wall compound, that's what it's called. Wall repair compound. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, totally messed up on that one. And you'll notice when I'm doing my stenciling like that, you want to try to hold the stencil as flat as you can make it. Not perpendicular to your page, but as flat as you can make it. And these things just bend so easily, so that's what I'm kind of struggling with right there. So yeah, so you'll notice when I do this the second time around here, I try to, no, I didn't want the red in there, so grab a new little bit out of the container. So I try to keep my palette knife as flat as I can to the surface, and that's going to prevent the texture paste or your wall compound from wedging itself underneath, is what it does. Now I take my palette knife and just kind of clean it up a little bit. Some of the bits and pieces that did kind of squish through. Again, taking my stencil and cleaning off the excess wall repair spackle that I've got that I don't want it to dry on there just too badly, or it's going to be pretty hard to get off. And then I put my love on. So I'm going to try and dry this a little bit, just so that my stencil isn't sitting in the wet compound and smudging it. Didn't want that as a look. So I'm going to stencil the word live at the top of this page. Same technique, using that palette knife and putting it as, and there you can see where I kind of squished it underneath. So try this again, get all the excess off of the stencil, so it's just easier to stencil back on again. You want as little of the texture paste on there as you can left on the stencil. So there, giving this one more go and seeing how I do this time. And good. Take my palette knife and kind of clean up again. And again, clean off the stencil. Now we've got a bucket of water that fits these 12 by 12s with a little bit of dish soap in it. Dish soap. So as we use our stencils, we put them into this tub, and that way they're kind of soaking, they're not having a chance to dry on, and just makes our cleanup so much easier at the end of the day. I'm up at my cabin for this weekend when I'm creating this page, and with my friend Karen Birchall. There's my wall compound, and we're just kind of just having a rest and relaxation. I don't know how much rest we got. Relaxing, yes. weekend, and we just had a ball. Now I'm actually on purpose holding the heat gun, and you really can't see it all that well here. I wish you could have. But I'm making that texture paste, or that wall compound, bubble, because I want the added texture to the stenciled words on my page. So I want them to just kind of bubble up and just give that. And it's really a cool technique. And you can do it with your whip spackle, your texture paste, and in this case I'm using my wall compound. So now I'm trying to decide, do I want to stencil some dragonflies on there? Kind of thinking it's got lots of stenciling on it already. Grab my butterfly stencil for half a second there. That didn't work out at all. So whenever you're in doubt, you got to do the finger tapping thing, right? So here I take one of Karen's stamp sets that she got from the local dollar store, and it's just butterflies and dragonflies is what it is. So I grab a dragonfly for there, a half butterfly for the H, and then a full one for up by the lid. And so I grab my, I think I do it with my StazOn ink pad. I might grab my Ranger. Yeah, I could grab my string. Either I use my my Ranger, what's it called? Archival ink, or I use my StazOn ink pad. Either one, and just kind of depending on the surface I'm working on. Wiping it off as I go, or trying to anyways. And quite often I find it's easier to position the stamps where you want them if you put them on the page first. Here I'm just cleaning off the ink with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. That just pulls off any StazOn, any archival, anything. And you'll see where I kind of put the stamp down first where I wanted it, and then pushed the block on top of it. That way I've kind of got it right at the edge of the block where it's not going to squish the texture paste on the H. Again, cleaning off the stamp and then adding a little butterfly. There we go. Pushing the StazOn ink down into it and trying to make sure I end up with a good impression. So yeah, Karen and I, we just had so much fun. Wasn't watching the time at all, and we didn't get to bed till 2:30 in the morning. We were up again at 8:30 the next morning. It was nuts. We just had so much fun and got so many projects created. It was crazy. Don't forget to put the lid on your StazOn. That stuff just dries up, and it seems like once you start re-inking them, they just keep being re-inked. I'm just taking my Signo black pen and going over top of the stamped image just to darken it up a bit. The page that I stamped it onto, when I had already done this cover, and this is very thin. It is honestly, you know how when you're looking through a magazine and they've got those little pull-out magazines inside that are stuck there with that kind of gooey little stringy glue? Well, that's what this was. So it's very flimsy, doesn't take well to wet media. However, that does not make it not fun to create with, because what you do is you put layers of gesso on, then you've got your layers of acrylic ink or whatever. Well, with this one, I had done the cover with a napkin and then had done some doodling and stuff on it. Did not like it at all. So what I did was I took my heavy gesso and I applied it with a palette knife. So I gave myself lots of texture and depth to this page before I even started. So when I sprayed these inks on, and it's hard to tell, but you can maybe a little bit with this close-up see where it's kind of grabbed into the texture, and that's where some of this ink has settled. But here you can see where I'm just defining the stamp a little bit with the pen. The StazOn didn't stamp as dark as I wanted it to be, and I wanted these stamps to really pop off the page, so just tracing over top of them and coloring them in. I like to I do this to a lot of my stamps where I'll go over top again. I just like, this is a little things like a little persnickety or whatever. Piddly, I guess, piddly things that this is what I like to do when I create. I love this. I love fussy cutting. I love filling in lines like this, that's just, yeah, one of my favorite things to do. So, as like I say, quite often I'll go over top of where I've stamped something onto a page. Now you can see in this close-up too where some of that red spray is coming up through the wall compound on the word that's been stenciled on there, laugh. And I don't mind that at all. I think it adds to the visual effect of the page. And I quite like what it ends up doing. So panning out again, just to give you a bit of a view of what the whole thing looks like. And again, checking it over. What else can I do? Do I need to do anything else? Yeah. Do I do the finger tapping? Nope. Grab the baby wipe for something. I'm not sure what. Must have decided I needed something wiped off. Now here's where I grab my, let's see, what do I grab there next? I know eventually I grab my stickles. Yep, there they are. This is my stickles by Ranger, and what I did was I went over top of the wings on the butterflies and then the wings on the dragonflies, not the bodies of the butterflies, just the wings. And I just kind of fill in between where the black is. Now, I mean, once it's done and you take a look at it, you honestly can't tell that I went in between it all because it kind of all blended together after it was on the page, but went into each one of them and did that. And this just adds some wonderful shimmer to your page. It somewhat changes the color of the ink underneath, lightens it up a little bit, but I really like the end result, and it just kind of pulled this page together, having that little bit of bling on the page. Now these, again, stickles, I've been using them since my card making days for 20 years, so quite easy actually to color in with them. And then I took my Uniball pen again and just outlining around the page. I like to have some sort of visual around the outer edges of any page that I do, and this is what I decided to do. That I went around a couple of times, and I'm not neat. I don't try to be perfect with this. Honestly, I am just scribbling it on and hoping for the best. So there you go, there's my page all done. I do end up doing this in a canvas, and I think I videotaped that as well. So thank you very much for coming along on this little journey of mine. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.